Before I get into that, I'll tell you guys a little bit about myself. So, my name is Edan Yago. Most people call me Yago. I have a background in neural networks and machine learning. And about 12 years ago, I was at Carnegie Mellon University. And I was reading up about network science, and I came across this white paper which changed my life, the Satoshi white paper, and it screwed up everything because I had a whole career planned out. And after I finished reading the white paper, everything changed. And I ended up basically within a few months switching to be all Bitcoin all the time. And since then I've been involved in starting a few companies in the Bitcoin space, particularly around remittance. Being involved in regulatory efforts, and most recently, over the last 2 years, I've been working with this project called Sovryn. And the reason I chose to work with Sovryn is two things. First of all, from the very beginning, my biggest concern around Bitcoin was how do we build additional layers of decentralization around Bitcoin? Because very early on, and up to today, right, it hasn't changed at all. It was very clear that there were problems with banking, there were problems with regulators, and all of these sort of fiat on-ramps and off-ramps were central points of control. Were limiting the ability of people to use their to access their funds and to have control over their funds. And at the same time, back, for example, in 2013, and even before that, there were several examples, but the really dramatic example was 2013-14, with the collapse of Mt. Gox. It became clear how many people were holding their Bitcoin in centralized exchanges. And so you've got these two twin problems of the ability to use your Bitcoin with fiat rails, and when you want to use your Bitcoin, you're going into these centralized systems. And in both of those cases, what happens is you lose the very purpose of Bitcoin in the first place, which was to provide you with self-sovereign money and to provide us with a way of building peer-to-peer decentralized institutions and economy. And this really bothered me. And the second thing which happened was I was living in London. And in London, I was running a company called DeFi, which was a remittance company which was FCA regulated, and we were banked by a couple of banks in the UK and several banks in Europe. And then when Bitcoin was becoming most profitable for us, the business was booming in late 2017. Almost in unison, all of those banks closed our bank accounts. And not just ours, those of many, many other companies that were operating in the space. And this made absolutely apparent how thin of a protection regulation, being regulated by, for example, the FCA, and having letters of recommendations from the FCA were. You know, we helped our company, I think, to a great extent, architected what today people know as the FCA. Well, actually, I'm not even sure that the FCA is still running it, but the program to allow startups to run in a regulatory sandbox was, to a great extent, something that we had started. And so even though we were one of the first and had letters of recommendation, we ended up getting shut down. And now, you know, I'm talking to you, and we look around the world and we see stable coins suffering, we see Bitcoin going up, banking collapsing, but at the same time that all of this is happening, just a few days ago, two of the most significant banks, and ultimately the three most significant banks in the US providing banking to our entire industry were shut down. And so the question is there a way for us to use Bitcoin, not just hodl it, because at that point it becomes inert and effectively useless. Is there a way for us to do things with Bitcoin without having to rely on these various centralized rails. And about just over 2 years ago, a number of people that I knew from the Bitcoin space approached me and said, look, we've been working on something. And they showed me a decentralized exchange, fully performed, secured by Bitcoin miners, run by smart contracts, with no central point of control, no custodian. And I got extremely excited. And I gave some money to help support additional work from these developers, and I quickly got sucked into it myself. And since then, I've been working on this project, which is called Sovryn, and is based around enhancing the sovereignty of Bitcoin and enhancing the sovereignty of its users. And so instead of talking about infrastructure, because you guys have heard about Rootstock and you've heard about stacks today, if I'm not mistaken, what I think I'll do is just show you what's evolved over the last 2 years with a community of well over 100 developers now, several different projects, tens of thousands of users, and what has become, even though it's sort of still happening under the radar, a significant and in fact the fastest growing part of Bitcoin DeFi. So, today I'll talk to you about building a world in Bitcoin and how we can build an entire economy on Bitcoin. And this is the Sovryn.com website, which is a website that I run, because there is no company that is sovereign. It's just an open source community. And so anyone can run a website, and I happen to have the Sovryn.com domain. If you go to the DApp, the decentralized application, there are two versions. There's the alpha version, which I'll show you guys here. And in the alpha version, you can see there's a whole bunch of options. There's trade, borrow, earn, labs, autocracy. And so I just want to quickly walk you through these things. So in trading, there's swaps, which is the ability to swap Bitcoin or RBTC in our case, right, on Rootstock, or a whole set of other assets. And all of this is done with smart contracts that are secured by Bitcoin miners. Every single transaction fee that you pay goes to help secure the Bitcoin network. And the entire thing is done without a central custodian anywhere in the mix. But it gets better. There's also spot trading. So with spot trading, you can choose your slippage tolerances. You can do market orders, limit orders. You can do you can watch the trading as it evolves in real time. And if you are even more sophisticated than that, there's margin trading as well. So you can do leverage trading with positions up to 5x leverage. For example, this is SOV, which is the government token of Sovryn against BDC. And you can go market limit long or short. So all of this is happening right now on Bitcoin. And over the last 2 years, we've seen over $2 billion in trades. So this has more volume than all of the other decentralized sort of Bitcoin native exchanges, of which unfortunately there aren't that many, but combined, and that's pretty cool. There's also the ability to borrow, so you can borrow Bitcoin, you can borrow XUSD, which is an aggregated stablecoin, DOC, which is dollar on chain, which is the Bitcoin-backed stablecoin, BPRO, and many other assets. And you can also lend. So if you're going to earn, you can choose to lend. You can see various interest rates that you can earn. So, for example, in Tether, it's one of the best places to lend Tether in the world. You can get 8.8% interest. There's also the ability to participate as a market maker in the various exchanges. So in the different pools. And the community sometimes chooses to offer rewards in order to enhance liquidity. So for example, in Sovryn dollar versus Bitcoin pair, there currently is about $30,000 of rewards distributed per week. And this is actually a pretty interesting pair, which I'll talk about in a moment. And then there's staking, which is to participate in governance of the system. And that actually is done through what we call Bitocracy. And so in Bitocracy, you participate in votes, and so there's actually a lot of voting that occurs. The community is very active. So you can see this is, for example, a vote occurring right now. This was a vote that occurred 2 days ago. This is an additional vote that occurred 2 days ago. And if you click into that, you can see the voting happening right now. We typically see over 25% of stakers participate, and there are over 10,000 stakers. But one of the cool things about this is, as opposed to, for example, Ethereum staking, or pretty much any other system, stakers don't earn some kind of inflationary token, and there isn't new tokens issued in order to incentivize staking. Staking is done by people who want to participate in the protocol's revenue, and what they are earning is Bitcoin. So they're helping to govern and secure the system. They're not earning the transaction fees; those go to Bitcoin miners. What they earn are things like lending fees and trading fees. And last quarter, the APY that they earned was 26%. And that is not inflationary, that is paid out in Bitcoin. So it's a very, very different model from what we're seeing outside of the Bitcoin space. And there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, also a bunch of experimental projects in labs. What I'd like to show you next is the new dApp, which everything is being switched over to. And here, sorry, I need to switch my network. Here, this is a new product, and the first that was introduced into the new dApp, which is called Zero. And what Zero allows you to do is to borrow stable coins, in this case, the Sovryn dollar. And the interest rate that you pay is zero, because you're not borrowing it from anyone. What you're doing is you're locking up your Bitcoin. The smart contract that you create when you do that issues you Sovryn dollars, and so you can pay it back whenever you want to unlock your Bitcoin, but until then you don't need to pay interest. And so this is newly launched, but so far has already seen $11 million in lending, and total lending across the platform is in the hundreds of millions of dollars. And the most important thing to me is this, the Sovryn dollar. So what is the Sovryn dollar? The Sovryn dollar is a 100% Bitcoin-backed dollar, redeemable for Bitcoin and makes value to the dollar, $1 worth of Bitcoin. And it's significantly over-collateralized. In fact, you can see here, it shows you a real-time monitor. So a real-time monitor of the over-collateralization, and you can see it's currently 271% over-collateralized. And then this Sovryn dollar is part of what powers it, is the core stablecoin in the Sovryn ecosystem, and it's there so that the users and the ecosystem itself is not subjected to the same systemic risk that, for example, the Ethereum ecosystem is subjected to, because USDC could collapse, Tether could disappear, and is also part of a larger and growing ecosystem of other applications that are being built by teams that are not part of the Sovryn core team. They've chosen to build out their own projects, potentially with their own token, and examples include Money on Chain, which, sorry, I'm going to have to switch this again, which allows you to take leveraged positions of Bitcoin and do so extremely efficiently, and has been an incredible way for over a year now to sort of enhance the value of your Bitcoin. It also allows you to swap Bitcoin for dollar on chain, which is a Bitcoin-backed stablecoin, which is part of the Sovryn dollar. And so you can swap at very, very low fees. And then other projects like Babelfish, which allows you to bridge over assets like DAI, Tether, and USDC and switch them into the sovereign dollar. So you can basically take your assets from other chains and switch them to a Bitcoin-backed, more reliable, more decentralized stable. So all of this is happening now. It's live. You can go to sovryn.com and find out more. You can go to sovryn.app and try it yourself. And there's about 45,000 users. It's growing quite rapidly. It's sort of there's recently an accelerated period of growth, and we're seeing other projects launching all the time. So currently, there's a group of people working on a project in the NFT and ordinal space. There are projects that are building wallets, and it's an extremely exciting thing because we're building a world of Bitcoin. We're building the entire economy, which is effectively a circular economy of Bitcoin, decentralized, trustless, with no middleman anywhere in the mix. All paid for in Bitcoin, with Bitcoin as its basic reserve currency. And so, for me, this is a dream come true. I'm proud that I can say that I've been part of this, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Edan? You have to speak up quite a bit so we can hear you on the mic. Anybody any questions? No questions. Wow.
Edan, hi, it's Michael Parsons. The sovereign.
Hey, Michael.
Hi, Edan, how are you? Long time no see. The sovereign dollar, which is backed by Bitcoin, is the value of that equal to the US dollar? That's question number 2.
Currently, yes.
Yes?
Yeah, so for the purposes of sort of bootstrapping adoption and what we expect will be the next few years, it will be pegged to the dollar. And that's to a great extent because that's what people are currently looking for. But the community's sort of long-term goal is for this to become its own free-floating currency.
And the second part of the question is, how do you convert the sovereign dollars into fiat dollars so you can spend them, for example?
Yeah, so there's a number of ways of doing that. None of them are super convenient right now. Sovereign dollar launched on Thursday, by the way. So it's been a bunch of sleepless nights. Right now, the best ways to do it, so I showed the Babelfish aggregator, which allows you to switch between different coins. And you can basically, like on Ethereum, go to USDC or DAI or USDT. So some people convert into those stable coins and withdraw that way. Other people withdraw to Bitcoin and sell Bitcoin. And there's a few projects now who are working on building fiat rails. So they're trying to provide wallets which will allow you to easily convert to dollars or euros or other things. So that's a work in progress. I suspect it will be probably a few weeks or maybe a couple of months before we see those launch. But there's work ongoing right now to make that as seamless as possible. The overall goal, one of the slogans that is bandied around in sovereign discourse is the idea that you shouldn't have to be technical to be free. And so there's a big emphasis on trying to create tools which are very, very easy to use. And you can see sort of like that there's an effort to also improve UI a lot. So going from, this, which is a bit of a hot mess, to this, which is cleaner. There's a lot of effort to make things as user-friendly as possible, with the goal of basically onboarding even people who don't know or wouldn't be interested in Bitcoin by, for example, providing them with a dollar equivalent stablecoin.
If I may add something, Ian, if you convert the sovereign dollars into USDC, yes, you've then got the Circle stablecoin. There is a way of converting that immediately and transparently, very easily into dollars. One way, and I'll share it with you, the group here, is that there's a bank called XAP or Zappo Bank, you may know, which is slightly off in California, then goes to Switzerland, and then it's now in Gibraltar. They now are able to take both Bitcoin and dollars, and recently they can take USDC. So if you were to pay the USDC into the Zappo wallet, it immediately converts into fiat dollars, which you can then spend on the debit card or transfer by bank elsewhere. So that is a rail available to you now if you need to use that. Obviously it's a third-party rail, but it means you can go from sovereign dollars to USDC, then USDC straight to fiat dollars.
So that's very interesting. I couldn't catch everything you were saying, so maybe we can connect later and give me the details, because it would be interesting to explore.
Yeah, we'll do.
Any more questions, anybody, for Edan?
Hi. I just wonder if one of the difficulties in adoption is equality, in that it doesn't have the same, immediacy, it doesn't have the same feel as MetaMask, and MetaMask has really established itself as, I think it's the largest wallet in the world, to be honest. So, can you, I know there is some way of using MetaMask with Sovryn, I think there was. Could you not try and blend into that a bit more to try and expand into the DeFi ecosystem in that way?
Sure. Let me turn off my wallet if I can. Alright, that's not working right now. I happen to be using Liquidity right now, but I'm going to turn Liquidity off because I happen to be using Liquidity right now, but in practice we actually don't, Liquidity isn't our preferred wallet. What we actually try and encourage people to do is use ledgers and trezors. And so that's the first option that is shown to users. There's also the ability to use Wallet Connect or any, it will automatically detect what wallet you have. So it shows Liquidity with me, but if you're using MetaMask, it will show MetaMask. If you're using Portis, it will show Portis. And then, we also try to help people who don't have a wallet. But what we try to do is we try to direct people first to hardware wallets, which you can plug in directly. You don't even need to plug it in through a MetaMask browser plugin, or to use any Web3 wallet browser, as well as several Bitcoin wallets. So thank you for that question.
Anything more from the crowd? Right, so let's give a quick round of applause to the